Hey, this is Ming here, a speech therapist from agentsofspeech.com. Today, I want to talk about, does your child have speech and language delay? This is something that a lot of parents ask me, and I just want to clear it up. In this video, I will talk about the minimum, what your child should be doing at a certain age group. So we'll go through 1.5-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, and up. So let's start off with 1.5-year-olds. So 1.5-year-olds, a lot of parents would be saying, oh, is it too early? Is it too late? Whatever. General rule of thumb for me, at the very least, after looking at different speech and language milestones around the world, I believe at 1.5, that is the quote unquote latest a child should be understanding and using single words verbally. Okay. So if a child is using single words already at 1.5, then you can wait until 2. All right. If your child is 1.5 and he still doesn't have any single words verbally, then you have to see a speech therapist right away and do assessment. Okay. So at the age of 2, okay, receptive language wise, meaning how much they can understand, okay, they should be able to understand what questions, like what is that, whatever, what is that, whatever, right? The second thing they should understand is binary choice questions, meaning do you want the apple or orange? Okay, you can also like give it to them visually, right? If they can understand that and tell you, oh, do you want apple or orange, and they say orange, then they understand it. The other question that they should be understanding now is yes or no. For instance, is this a book? And if they say no, then great, which is the correct answer, whatever that you're holding up. Okay, so expressively speaking, meaning how much they can talk, 2-year-olds should be able to speak in 2-word phrases, and it doesn't matter if they're grammatically incorrect at this time. Maybe it's just mommy eat or drink water or kickball or whatever. Like, as long as there are 2 words and they can use it interchangeably, then it's fine. But what is not fine is that if they say, I want this, I want that, I want whatever, I want, or this is whatever, this is, those are called carrier phrases and frozen phrases that at the very least, I don't really regard them as a 2-word phrase. I would regard them as a carrier phrase, right? Okay, so at age 3, receptively speaking, how much they can understand, again, is to be able to understand who and where questions. And these are not just like who is that, where is this, like that those are just labeling. It's the same as what. So for instance, who's wearing glasses? Ming, right? Who is wearing gray shirt? Ming as well. So, and I don't want the child to remember these things, or who cooks the dinner, or like who catches the thieves, and they're supposed to remember like policeman or whatever. Those are just remembering. I want them to think and look. And for instance, where is the cushion? On the sofa, right? So they have to look and process the language in order to understand, like to answer a question. Okay, so these are the minimum requirements receptively for a 3-year-old. All right. Expressively speaking, at 3, they should be able to speak in 3-word phrases, and it doesn't really matter at this moment in time. It's still acceptable for their grammar to be incorrect. That's still fine. And what a 3-word phrase would be: mommy drink water, like a SVO, subject verb object, like very, very simple language. Cat sitting on floor. So like sometimes on, in, the, these are functional words. They don't really count into as a meaningful language unit, right? It doesn't, like linguistic unit, whatever you call it, right? It's not really a meaningful word that it's functional to make it more grammatically correct, right? So like cat sitting on floor, I would consider as a 3-word phrase. Like linguists might say, Ming, you're wrong, whatever. Just put them in the comments if you think so. We can have a discussion, right? But at the very least, they should be using 3-word chunks, okay? Not the carrier phrase and frozen stuff. Like I want water is not a 3-word phrase, okay? At the very least, from my perspective, okay? So if your child at 3 hasn't hit these goals or able to do these, go see a speech therapist. If he or she can, then you can wait a little bit, all right? At age 4, receptively speaking, should be able to answer why questions. So for instance, why is the table wet? Because I spilled the water. Okay. Other questions like, why am I crying? Right? Why is he crying? Because he broke his leg or whatever. Like, because he fell down and he's bleeding. He hurt himself. Like these simple why questions, your child should be able to like look and answer you with because as well. Like, so after like using the conjunction connective because, right? And then expressively speaking, your child should be speaking in full sentences now, and everything is like 70 to 80% grammatically correct, and they can describe events in a sequence. So for instance, if they talk about, what happened in the supermarket, and they'll start to say, oh, first we went to the supermarket, then mommy grabbed the drinks and Coke and whatever biscuits, and last we paid at the cashier. So there's like a sequence, and they can go more than one utterance at a time, like one sentence at a time. They can go the whole thing, like maybe 3 steps, 4 steps and they use connectives like first, then, last, first, next, whatever, morning, in the morning, and then at whatever, at noon, whatever. They can use these kind of connectives to tell you. Okay, if your child is not hitting these, then go see a speech therapist again, get an assessment. All right. The last one is age 5 and up. And why I say age 5 and up is because age 5, this is where like children start to become able to speak in complex sentences and are close to adult form in terms of verbal language, not written, not reading, not writing or whatever, just verbally. They speak as well as me and you should do informally. Okay, not telling them they're able to like give a keynote speech or whatever, like not like that, just normal conversation. They're able to hold themselves, right? So in terms of receptively, we can answer like how and when questions. So how is like, how do you play this game? And they can tell you in steps. Oh, first you roll the dice and then whatever. So that's a how question. And then the when question is like, it's not the remembering thing. It's not like, oh, when do you brush your teeth? Before bedtime. That's just a remembering. It's just a remembering task. So what is a when question that uses the brain? It's like, for instance, they have to recall something. When did you get your stuff done last time? Like when did you clean your teeth last time, right? Or when did you go to Japan, right? Or whatever. And then they say, oh, July, whatever, right? So these are the questions that they should be answering at 5. And expressively speaking, we talked about like complex sentences. Example would be what we call a relative clause, right? For instance, the boy who wore the black shirt is a sentence already, is kicking the ball. So there are 2 sentences embedded. Like we also call it embedded sentence. So there's a lot of names for the same thing. And also they're able to tell stories. So it doesn't matter what kind of story, as long as they are telling a story from start to finish. It might be 3 Little Pigs, whatever. As long as they can do it, then great. If they can't, go see a speech therapist, okay? So that's the end of the video. If you haven't, go to agentsofspeech.com/checklist for free list of tools and toys we recommend you to get before you start home therapy, okay? And out of everything that I've talked about today, these are general, like loose guidelines, okay? Don't take it to heart, but if your child cannot do these, then you should really go see a speech therapist for a full speech and language assessment, okay? So thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.